Hi guys, it's Matt here, and today I'm going to be making another video finally here on YouTube. It's been so long, and I just wanted to, apologize for the fact that I haven't been uploading. As some of you may know, some of you may not know, I'm in my final year of university this year. I've just had an insanely busy last 3 or 4-ish months. Where I had like loads of coursework and exams, and I just had no time really to post on YouTube. I just didn't really have the time to record, edit, and upload, and sort of check through the comments of all the videos. I finished most of my uni work, and then I decided that I'd come back. Well, I decided first I'd take a break. I took about a week off, and then I was going to come back and make some more content for my site and YouTube, and then I got ill. So yeah, it's been longer than I was expecting, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Things happen, and to be fair, if I was gone for 3 months, I doubt anybody's going to miss me anyway. So anyway, so let's get into this video. So today I'm going to be talking about the idea of compact and less compact immersion. So for example, if you just take the whole idea of the 10,000 hours to professional ability as an example, not that I think it's perfect nor anywhere near accurate, but if you just take that as a base, if you were to learn Japanese for an hour a day, according to 10,000 hours method, it would take around 30 years to get to a professional level. But if you did what I did or Matt did or any other AJATA does, where you focus those hours per day into, instead of doing 24 days, you do 1 day of 24 hours, right? Or, basically you confine it all down into a smaller group. By doing that, would you progress faster than if you were to do an hour a day? And what I mean by this is, would you get more out of each of those hours than if when you confine it all together, than if you were to spread it out? And now, well, of course, I haven't done the 1 hour a day to 30 years method. I wouldn't really call it a method, but you know what I mean. I haven't done a relaxed version of language learning, and I haven't. The only thing I have done is AJAT. But if you think about it, AJAT is going to be the one that is more efficient. And the reason for this being is quite simply because there is more contact with the language per day, and all the immersion is condensed into a smaller time frame. You then come across the same patterns, the same words, the same phrases over and over again, and in a lot more quickly. And this means that your brain's going to remember all these different patterns and phrases. You go, oh, I heard that earlier, or I heard that yesterday, or I heard that 2 hours ago, whatever. And you're going to remember things a lot quicker. And so you're able to build a base quicker. And once you've got a base language ability, it's very easy to then spread out and sort of develop language across the board, across different subjects. It's very easy. And so I feel like that AJAT is much better in this way of doing that, because if you're learning just an hour a day per day, you have so much time where you could forget what you've learned. Say if you spend half an hour watching a TV show and half an hour reading a book, by the time it gets to the next day, if you don't know much of the language already, you're going to not really understand what's going on anyway, so you're not really going to pick up on much. And then on the next day, you're really not going to pick up on that much either, because you can't remember a lot of what happened yesterday, or you can't remember any of the words or phrases that were said, because it's just been too big of a gap in time for you to really reconcile any of the language. So, or not necessarily reconcile, but like to just remember anything. You haven't heard it constantly over and over again, so it's going to be very unlikely for you to remember a lot of the phrases. Now, of course, you would remember some phrases. I'm not saying you won't remember nothing, because obviously you will. But having that constant bombardment of language input all day, every day, is definitely one of the reasons. In fact, it's probably the main reason why AJAT is such a good method, and why immersion-based language learning is such a great way of going about learning a language, and why it's one of the fastest ways of doing it. It's because all of that information is condensed down you're constantly being bombarded by language, and therefore you're constantly being reminded of the phrases, the words, the sentences that you've already heard, and that gives your brain a much higher chance of being able to understand them and break them down, and sort of trying to remember what each different word means and what phrases mean and stuff like that. So basically, the whole idea of I+1 is great and it works, but it really works a lot better when you have loads and loads of input. So take the example of I+1, for example. The whole idea of you have to understand something in a language before your brain can actually learn it, and it has to be just a little bit more difficult than the level that you're already at. If, for example, you just have constant bombardment of language from doing this, whilst you're trying to learn Japanese, you are constantly, you're going to have a higher chance of being able to be exposed to an I+1 sentence than if you were to just do an hour a day. And especially if you just did an hour a day, you wouldn't probably be able to remember a lot of what you've learned, of what you've heard the previous day, so it just makes it slower. And it just means you're going to have a much higher chance of seeing these I+1 sentences, so to speak, therefore having a higher chance of understanding them, and it'll overall be a lot more efficient doing this than if you were to do it a day by day, where you've got to have a lot of input lost due to lack of input throughout the rest of that day. So, from my opinion, I feel like the hour a day to 30 years method, I wouldn't really call it a method, but you know what I mean. The whole idea of doing an hour a day to try and get to professional fluency in a language, whatever that may be, in a certain time frame, is probably not that good of an idea. I would focus on doing a lot more hours per day than just one, if you can. It's always better to do at least 2, 3, or as much as you can, because the more you can do in a day, as I say, the more exposed you can become to the same structures, and therefore have a high chance of remembering those and being exposed to I+1 sentences or I+1 content, and therefore being able to pick up a lot more to do with a language. So that's my take on it. I just feel like traditional language learning, where you just do a couple of a hour a day, it's just too slow, and because there isn't that condensed sort of constant flow of language bombarding you, it is very difficult to remember a lot of stuff. It's very difficult to pick out phrases in sentences, and it's a lot more slower in terms of being exposed to I+1 sentences. If you want to get I+1 content, then you just need to bombard yourself with a ton of content to get there. That's the best way to do it, really. There's no other real way of doing that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter, and it's pretty simple, to be honest. I just think AJAT's just in itself is more efficient overall in the long term than other methods, but also it does get you to a high level quicker, just because you are spending so much time in the language constantly. So there's obviously that, but overall I feel like it's a much more efficient method and it'll get you there quicker. I'll soon be uploading more videos, hopefully, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I also just wanted to say a quick thank you to Diedrich, Eric, R, and everybody else who's supporting me on Patreon right now. You guys are awesome. Honestly, thank you so much. And if you guys want to become a Patreon too, then you'll get extra content each month, as well as access to my Anki decks. You can also just go for the Anki decks. It's only $1, and you get access to, currently I think I've got over 60 or 70 decks, all from mainly anime, and you can just study them and improve your Japanese. So it's a really good way of getting access to a lot of Anki decks, high quality ones, for very cheap, and hopefully it'll really help you guys out. So if you want to do that, then don't forget to check out my Patreon. The link's in the description. And once again, thank you guys for watching.